Hello, hello. Welcome to today's podcast episode. So, today we are going to talk all about how to audit your therapy Instagram in order to get more followers and more clients. This is really, really important. It is honestly one of the most asked questions that I get inside of my VIP community for therapists and PPA is, "Hey, Kelly, will you take a look at my Instagram bio and give me some feedback?" So, I'm going to share exactly what I look for today when I do those audits for the therapist and PPA, so you too can go ahead and audit your own Instagram and really make these strategic shifts. So I want you to pull up your Instagram as you listen. We're going to be really, really action oriented today, and I want you to make sure that you have everything you need so your Instagram bio is actually converting people who are landing on your page into followers and then eventually into clients. So, to start off, what is an Instagram audit, right? An Instagram audit is sort of a more structured way to review your Instagram account. So we're going to be looking at your bio, we're going to be looking at your content, we're going to be looking at your profile picture, all of that. And the goal here is really to make sure that your audit or that your Instagram account is reflective of the goals that you have for your business, right? So if you are using Instagram as a marketing tool, I definitely suggest doing an audit regularly. I try and do this quarterly. You can certainly, do the same. Feel free to revisit this episode. But you really want to stop and ask yourself, like, what are my goals with Instagram? And is that clear by you popping onto my Instagram page, right? So whether or not those goals are to get more therapy clients, maybe your goal is to grow your email list or sell a course or sell a membership or get brand deals. Depending on what that goal is, your Instagram content, your bio, etc., all of that should really shift. So most of today's episode, we're going to sort of like take from the lens of a therapist who is actively trying to fill their caseload. But if you have another goal, please go ahead and adapt this audit and make sure that you are doing the same thing, but with your specific goal in mind. So let's dive in. The first thing we're going to look at is your bio and your profile picture. So let's talk about picture. Your picture should be really clear. It should be inviting and it should not be distracting. So number one, we do not want to stand with your arms crossed or anything like that where you look like a little bit too serious. We want this to be like a warm, inviting photo. I would definitely suggest a photo where you're smiling. I think that is important. It should be well lit, right? If you have professional photos, I think that is fantastic. But if not, you can still go ahead and take a photo yourself. You just want to make sure that you wipe your camera lens first. Again, it's well lit, meaning the sun is in front of you, not behind you, so you're not backlit. And that is really, really helpful. Something I see a lot of therapists sort of mess up on, especially when they're taking their own photos, is the background will be really distracting. And so if you are standing, outside in front of trees or you're in a coffee shop or something like that, and there's, just stuff behind you, that can be distracting on your profile picture. One of my favorite things to do with this is to use a background remover tool. So they have these inside of Canva. They have them inside of Adobe Express. You can probably Google and find some other options as well. But basically what we want to do is remove the background, all the background stuff. So it's just your face. And then you can go ahead and put your brand color behind it. I think that is just a really nice, clean way to do a profile picture. I think it helps you to stand out. I think it helps your account to look like a professional account versus a personal account. And it just really helps to build that familiarity. And again, it really helps you to stand out in the feed. So if you don't really understand what I'm talking about, please feel free to take a look at my Sit with Kelly or my Business of Therapy profile pictures. You will see I have a yellow and a purple background behind them. And that is exactly what I'm talking about here. Okay, next up, let's look at your name field, right? So your name field is the only searchable section of your entire Instagram bio. So this is the section that when you go to your profile, you'll see it in bold. That we really want to make sure has keywords since it is searchable, right? So if I was a therapist who was actively seeking new clients from Instagram, mine would probably say something like Kelly McKenna, anxiety therapist in New York, New Jersey, and Florida. Right. And the reason why we do that is we want to have your name there, right? That's really important for just building that personal connection, building some trust. We want to have keywords. So I wouldn't use my credentials of licensed clinical social worker or LCSW because I know my clients are not searching for that, right? They're searching for the word therapist and they're searching for the word anxiety, right? So I'm going to use that title, anxiety therapist, even though obviously anxiety therapist is not a real thing, I guess, right? Like none of us are a licensed anxiety therapist, but that is like a common word, a common phrase that we can use that people are actively searching for. And then I want to go ahead and have that location in there as well, right? So if anybody's searching anxiety therapist New York, anxiety therapist New Jersey, anxiety therapist Florida, I am popping up for them because that is the searchable portion of my entire bio. So definitely make sure that your name field is reflective of that. And then we want to go ahead and look at your actual bio. Your bio should be really clear who you help, right? So people know why they should go ahead and follow you. Meaning that this should be really specific to your niche. It should be specific to your ideal client's pain points, and it should use like regular words. We don't want to say things like, holding space for healing or helping you bloom or even stuff like trauma informed, right? Like those are not things that your clients are looking for. It's not how they're describing what they want out of life or what they want out of therapy, or especially not what they want out of following somebody on Instagram. We want to use really concrete, really specific words, right? So maybe you say something like, um, you know, helping new moms feel like themselves again, right? Maybe beneath that in the second line, you list some issues that the moms that you work with are struggling with. So you might say body image and postpartum anxiety. And then your third line would be a call to action. So accepting new clients in Massachusetts with a little down arrow below, right? We want to keep it really simple and we want it to be straightforward. We want to tell people, who are you working with? What are the sorts of things you will help them with, and that you are accepting new clients and where you are accepting them, right? That is super, super simple. That is all that we want to do with our bio. And that is enough, right? The goal here, as a general rule of thumb, is we want to make it really, really obvious to someone who does not follow you already what they will get out of following you within 5 seconds of looking at your profile. Because that's in reality all the time that you have, right? Somebody comes across a reel of yours, and if you're lucky, they like it, they engage with it, and then they go to your profile to decide, hey, is this somebody I want to follow? And they're making a really quick snap judgment and making that decision. So you want the bio to be really, really clear in helping them to decide what that next step is. Okay, the next step, let's talk about your link in bio. So this is the link that you have right underneath your bio. You can either do multiple links within Instagram itself, or you could use, a website like Linktree, Stan Store. You could even make your own on your website. But you want to be able to showcase multiple links. The first link should be your intro call scheduler. If you do not already have an intro call scheduler set up, you absolutely need to have one of these, right? Your conversions from Instagram are going to skyrocket once you allow people to simply self-schedule an intro call with you when they are considering therapy. I personally have mine set up inside of Jane, the electronic health record I use in my own practice. I would recommend doing it that way. It's super easy. It's super professional. I think that it's just a great platform. But if you want to try something else, I know Calendly is another really popular option. And most electronic health records have that ability as well. So you want to have that first link be your intro call scheduler, and you want it to be clearly labeled. So I would put schedule a free 15-minute intro call with me, and then in parentheses, accepting new therapy clients in blank states, right? So it's super, super clear why somebody should click that button. Then the next button, we want to have something like learn more on my website, and we're linking to your website homepage. That might be all the buttons that you need, but if you want to have one or two more, not more than that, if you want to have one or two more, you could, right? So you could have a recent blog post. Again, I would clearly label what that is so people know why they should click it. You might have a freebie. You might want to link to a specialty page on your website for EMDR intensives or something like that, right? You can have, I would say, maybe 3 to 5 maximum links. We don't want to have more than that because it really starts to create analysis paralysis for people and stops them from clicking anything to begin with. Okay, so once we have your picture set up well, your bio set up well, your link in bio set up well, it's time to take a look at your Instagram content. And with your content, we want to make sure that it really, really is niche specific, right? Your content should help your ideal client to see that you are the therapist for them, right? That means that you need to be speaking to one person in all of your content. And some of that content should sort of vary in how you are showing up, right? So sometimes your content should position you as an expert in your niche, right? I think that carousels are great for this, but you want something that has like authority, right? Where you are speaking as a subject matter expert. You want a lot of your content to be really validating to your client's experience, right? So this is the content that's going to make them feel seen. It's going to make them feel heard. It's going to make them feel like they relate to you, right? This sort of content is really, really important. I think that reels are absolutely fabulous for accomplishing this goal. We want to make sure that you are being clear with your language, and that you are being niche specific, right? And that you are speaking again in terms that your clients use, not this overly flowery, jargon language, but that we are really being specific and using words that normal people use in their normal everyday today life. You want to make sure that you have consistent and frequent calls to action, right? So people need to be told exactly what to do, even if you think that they would already know, right? So if I was accepting new clients in my therapy practice, I would have at the bottom of every single caption, looking for a therapist. I'm accepting new clients in New York, New Jersey, and Florida. Schedule a free 15-minute intro call with me at the link in my bio to get started. I would not have any feelings about being a broken record about it. And I would say it in every single piece of content, because people need to hear things dozens of times before they decide to take action. And most people are not even going to read your caption all the way till the end. And the ones who do are really interested in what you have to say. They are the ones who are most likely to work with you. So you want to be able to tell them what that next step is. Okay. The other thing I'd look at is we want to make sure that you are mixing up the type of content that you're sharing, right? So all the different content has, different purposes. So we want to have some reels, we want to have some static images, we want to have some carousels, we want to have some stories. All of this is really, really important. So that's something I definitely look for when I'm auditing therapists' Instagram. We also want to make sure that it's easy to scan your Instagram profile and decide, whether or not you are somebody worth following. And I say that, we all are worth following, but like depending on who is visiting the page, they may or may not consider you worth following, right? So for instance, I'm in my 30s, I'm happily married, I'm pregnant with my first baby. Like I might come across a really good profile on dating tips, but I might not want to follow that page because I'm not trying to date a new person, right? Whereas if I come across, a page about how to sort of like maintain your relationship, post kids, that might be somebody who I'm instantly like, oh yeah, follow, like this is the season of life that I'm in, right? And so we really want it to be clear when somebody lands on your page, who you are, who you help, what kind of content you create. And that needs to be done in your bio, which we've already talked about, but it should also be easily scannable by your content. So what I mean by easily scannable is if I were to just click on your profile and scroll without clicking into any content, can I get a feel for who your content is for and what it's about, right? I think that carousel images are great for this. I think it's important to pick a screen grab from your reel that makes it clear who you're talking to and what you're talking about. I'm personally not a big fan of cover images. If you look at my Instagram pages, you'll see that I don't really use those, but I try and grab a screen grab where you can easily read the text, you can see my face, you can sort of see what the reel is about. And so I think that it is really important that your content is easily scannable in that way. And that's one reason why I really, really love carousels, because it's so easy to have like a clear hook there that people can read. And it just makes it really clear what your content's about. All right, other things we want to look at is just like overall branding and vibe, right? Are your brand colors consistent? Are they easy to read? Is the font easy to read? Are you consistent with how you're posting? All of that conveys a sort of level of like professionalism to the people who are visiting your page. You don't want your content to look janky, right? By having, tons of different colors all over the place, or having a light pink background with white text on top where I can barely read it because there's not enough contrast between the colors. Like that is super, super important in creating just like a professional experience for people who are visiting your page. Same with the consistency, right? So if you are somebody who's posting twice and then you're not posting for a month and then you post again for a week and then you post again for another 3 weeks, like that doesn't give off very professional. That doesn't show that you're super serious about your business. That doesn't show that you're really passionate about your work. It doesn't help people to build those consistent relationships with you. So you definitely want to make sure that you're being consistent. Something I kind of look at, the barometer I'm looking for here, is that you're posting maybe 4 to 7 times a week. You don't need to post every day, but especially if you're somebody who's on the newer side and you're wanting to grow, I would post a minimum of 4 times a week. I've been on Instagram since 2020 and I still kind of try and hold myself to that minimum. Sometimes I'm at like 3 times a week on Sit with Kelly, because that's not really my main focus at this point. But on business therapy, I'm posting at least 4 times a week, every week. And I think that that's super important just to like maintain growth, maintain those relationships, all of that. I want to take a look at your pinned posts. So I suggest having 3 different pinned posts here. One is how to work with you. I actually share a whole template for this inside of Private Practice Academy and how to actually boost this post as an ad, because I think that it's super helpful. But if you're not in that program, the gist of it is you want a post that makes it really clear that you are accepting new clients and what steps people should take to work with you. We want to pin something that is relatable or viral, right? So oftentimes therapists will pin something from the Reels membership that did really well. Usually it's like a B-roll reel or a multi-part acting reel, because those really tend to take off. But a lip syncing one is totally fine too. But something that's just like relatable, funny, viral, that shows your people like, hey, I get you. And then the third thing that I suggest pinning is something where I can actually hear your voice, right? So a talking head reel is great for this. It doesn't need to be something that performs super well, but something where you like the content, you're proud of it either way. I think that that is super, super important. And by pin posts, I mean, you can actually go ahead and pin things on Instagram so you can decide what are the first 3 things that somebody will see when they come across your page. And so instead of it just being your 3 most recent posts, you have control over that, right? And so I think that pinning these 3 things is really, really helpful, because it helps to gain followers, right? By like having something relatable, viral, that helps people feel seen and heard. It helps to build trust quickly by showing your voice. And it also helps to convert people by showing them how to work with you. Okay, other things I look at when I am auditing Instagram pages. Are you responding to comments? I think that that is huge. I know that it can feel like time consuming or a little pointless at times, but it is really, really important, right? When you reply to comments, you are sort of like affirming for people that you like when they comment on your stuff. You're like, giving a reward there, and you're encouraging that behavior again. It's also just like developing a greater sense of community, and again, giving people like that reason to post. We work really hard to create content that is engaging, that people will want to comment on. And so I hate to see therapists like missing out on maximizing that by just leaving a bunch of comments unresponded to. Okay, so thinking about your overall strategy, it is really important that you are treating Instagram as a marketing tool. And depending on what your goals are, will shift a little bit how you use it, right? So maybe if the goal of your content is to get more therapy clients, you might be leaning in a little bit more into educational content. You might be leaning in a lot more to calls to action, telling people to schedule an intro call with you. Whereas if your goal is brand deals, right? That's kind of where my goal is at right now, is Sit with Kelly. You might be leaning into a lot more personal content, a lot more relatable content. You might be trying to do a little bit like fancier edits where you can showcase brands and all of that. And you might not even have any calls to action in your content that are business related, right? A lot of my calls to action are engagement related, because that's what brands are looking at when they're deciding whether or not to work with me, right? So I use a lot of calls to action, telling people to comment on something. And that is sort of where I'm like spending my focus there. It is really important that you are, taking time to plan your content. You can make this simpler with things like the Reels membership, or you can do it on your own, but we don't want to just like post randomly. We want to have some strategy behind it. So if you are in the Reels membership, I do this for you and make sure that you already have like a variety of content. But if you are doing it yourself, please make sure that your content varies every week. You're using different styles of reels. You're using some content that is designed to go viral. You're using some content that maybe might not get great views, but it's really going to help you to show up as an authority, to build trust with your people. You want to use some content that's telling people to convert, where the main point of your reel is to showcase like, hey, therapy with me will help you. But we don't want all of your content to be that, because then it will be boring and a little bit too salesy, right? But we do want to make sure that we are kind of like balanced there and sort of addressing all of those goals. Okay, we want to make sure that we are also clearly guiding people off of Instagram. So I know we talked about intro calls, schedulers a little bit earlier. I recommended Jane, but definitely make sure that you are like telling people to book an intro call with you if your goal is to get therapy clients. So definitely at the caption of every single post. I also recommend sharing your intro call scheduler link in stories 3 to 4 times a week. I think that is super important. Okay, last thing that I look at here, right, is can I see who you are in your content? I probably should have started with this one because I think that this is so, so, so important, right? Like it is really, really necessary that I can get a general sense of your vibe from your Instagram content because that is what's going to make your Instagram effective. And so for sure, this involves like showing your face. It involves me hearing your voice, but it also is like, can I see your style a little bit? Like the clothes you wear, the color of your nails, your makeup, your tattoos, whatever. Like, can I see, your art behind you? Can I see a little bit of your home or your office? Can I see your pet? Can I see a funny joke in your sense of humor a little bit? Can I see what your favorite beverage is? Like, I'm always posting about iced lattes and Diet Coke. But we really want to just showcase little pieces of yourself. I know that as therapists, we were taught to like show up neutrally, but it is really, really important that you find a way to break through and to have small, small self disclosures in a way that allows you to show up more authentically. If I can't get a feel for like whether or not I would want to grab a coffee with you or a drink with you, your Instagram content's not landing, right? So it is really, really important that people can get sort of like that vibe just from your Instagram page. Okay, so to wrap up, I hope that this was helpful for you. All of this information should be seen as like data, right? That you can use to improve and bring yourself closer to your goals. It's okay if your Instagram audit did not go so well and you're like, I've got a lot of changes to make. We're going to make them and we're going to go onward and upward, right? So if you have been posting and not seeing results, it is fixable. I want you to go ahead, audit your account, see where things need to shift and, make those changes because at the end of the day, you do not need to have tens of thousands of followers to have a successful practice. Although I will certainly help you to grow your Instagram account too. And this bio is a step in that right direction. But what you really need in order to have a successful practice, in order to have a full caseload of clients from Instagram, is for you to create clear, consistent, intentional content for one specific person. Right? So I hope that this is helpful. Pull up your profile and audit it if you haven't already. I would love to hear any changes that you are making as a result of this episode. So DM me at Business of Therapy and let me know. And if you get any wins from this episode, even better, please share those as well. And yeah, if you want more like individualized support with this, if you want me to do an Instagram audit for you, I suggest joining the Private Practice Academy. I do these inside of our VIP community all the time. And, of course, walk you through this in the course as well in a lot more detail step by step. All right, my friends, have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will talk to you soon.